Hey, I guess we're going to call this the special episode or something. No number. This is more about what I learned in the last few days. I'm in Texas. I am between Galveston and Houston, mostly really close to the shoreline of Galveston area. So yeah, Beryl, the hurricane, went right over top of us with 90-mile-an-hour winds, and it was pretty bad. It was devastating around the area. I did okay. I got some trees and stuff down, limbs, whatever, but really that was about it. And of course, lost a lot of sleep because Monday morning, about 1:30 in the morning, it started. And around 2:30, it started to really crank up some wind and started really coming down hard and heavy. So it was like, yeah, it's Beryl's getting here. Seemed like it took forever for Beryl to get up on shore and go on through. So yeah, it was a long day. Yeah. Right now it's 10:30, it's Thursday, yeah. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we had no electric power. And so that's probably the biggest problem with any kind of storm, especially like in this case a hurricane, is you go suddenly without power. And the very first thing I was worried about was the refrigerator because all my food will go bad. Now we did still have water, so that was really good. We had hot and cold water, as a matter of fact, because I have natural gas heater for the water. So there was no problem with that. The next thing, of course, you want is maybe the internet and some television, so that because you're going to be killing time and you're going to be sitting around staring at the four walls because there's not a whole lot, there's nothing open, and even some of the roads are closed because there's trees across the road. And there's nobody around with a chainsaw that's going to clean that mess up right away for you. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting situation. And really quickly, I do not have a gas generator anymore. And it was sort of like not by choice. It's simply our gas generator blew a piston a few years ago. And since then, I have moved into a lot of solar power. Now, I have been working on and building this thing up very, very slowly, budgeting it very little at a time. So we really didn't have enough solar to, say, carry the whole house or something, but we could carry the basics. And we carried the refrigerator, which was a biggie. And also, I carried the internet, the computers, the television, and some lighting, just some basic things. And of course, charging and running the computers alone was, that's something, plus the cell phone. So there was a lot going on in the household. Even though we didn't have a generator, we had solar power. And I learned really quickly that if something like this is going to happen and you have a small or a couple of small systems, and they're different, okay, so 10 different solar power generator type stations like this. I also have a couple thousand watts in portable panels, and I have about 1,000 watts in hard panels, so that are nailed to the roof of my barn. And the barn station is really to just look after the tools in the barn, maybe run an extension cord out, run some power tools, saws, whatever have you. So that was the general layout. I'm just trying to give you the background here because when we got into it, over the first 2 days, I screwed up. Yeah, I screwed up real bad. And I think it was between the loss of sleep and panic and having to watch a hurricane tear everything up around us here for approximately, I'm going to say about good 12 to 14 hours of like high winds and sudden surges of heavy rains. And we kept thinking maybe some hail at some point because the rain came down so hard, it hit so hard that you'd swear that's what you were hearing was hail, and it wasn't. But I learned a lot of things, and I was going to share them with you guys because you know what, we sort of got into some trouble with the solar, and yet we still fared okay. And let's face it, the very bottom line is even just staying cool in southern Texas in July, if you can't run your house air conditioning, you already sort of have a problem. Things are going to get kind of nasty. Now, we fared, I think we did fantastic for the situation here, but there was a lot of things that went on. Now, with a hurricane, a huge area gets wiped out and the power's out all over. So that means you can't go to your local gas station and pick up some more gas for the said generator. And even if you do have a generator, your gas generator, I found they average. I'm just giving an average. I'm not giving an actual brand name with a statistic or something like that. But an average generator is going to run you about a gallon an hour. Yeah, because it's going to be running full blast. And I don't know how much, and really, in some ways, it sort of doesn't depend too much on how much load you have. If you've got 18 watts of power that you're borrowing off that generator, it's still going to run about a gallon an hour. If you've got 2,000 watts on there, it's going to run you about a gallon an hour. Or 5,000 watts, it'd probably run you a gallon an hour. Now, some generators are better than that. They might use a half a gallon, 3/4 of a gallon. It's going to depend. I've also seen generators the other way where they use a gallon and a half or even 2 gallons an hour blasting through fuel. And chances are, you, me, we don't have hundreds of gallons of fuel laying around. And the whole thing with the generators, they're great for a short period. So if you need electric power for say 12 hours or something, the gas generator is going to get you, probably going to get you through that, providing of course you have at least 12 to 15 gallons of fuel on reserve, in cans, whatever, ready to go to keep the power on the house. Plus, the safety involved with the gas generator, you've got to have that thing outside someplace, hopefully under a carport, out of the weather, because it's still going to be windy, it's going to be raining, you're going to have some hard times. We had a terrible storm yesterday, on Wednesday. That's, almost 3 days later after the hurricane blows through, and today I've got thunderstorm and lightning out there again today with some really weird surges of wind and then no wind at all. So, Mother Nature doesn't really, play fair. She doesn't give you nice blue skies and calm after the hurricane, apparently. I thought she sort of would. So, and that plays crap with everything, including solar power. So, I had to come up with a plan, and I didn't have a good plan. This particular one right here is one of the best I have because it will charge up and it'll run the refrigerator. So that would be great. But it can only run the refrigerator for maybe 6 to 8 hours, and then this thing is empty. It needs to be refilled with solar. And if it's nighttime or there's a lot of cloud cover, you're going to have trouble trying to get this thing refilled. And so I really needed a better plan. And I have 3 big ones like this. So I thought, well, while I'm charging one, and I can have one on the fridge, and I can have one on standby, and I'll just rotate them or something. Sounds like a plan, right? Yeah, it was a bad plan. Yeah, it was a bad plan. These were all based on using portable panels. And the first number one problem you've got with something like this will only allow up to 400 watts in. So knowing that, it was like, well, okay, you know what? We'll throw a 400 watt panel out there on the driveway. We'll charge this up. I even bought an extension cord from Amazon. And the extension cord turned out to have some kind of problem with the MC4 cable plugs. Yeah, great. Just this is the sort of thing you want to find out why you have a hurricane and now you have a problem. So over the first couple of days, I ran these things down, and before I knew it, all of a sudden, all 3 are in need of charge, and the refrigerator, of course, needs to be kept running. And so after a while, I realized out of my barn, I have 2, I guess we'll call them hard panel solar packages. And one of them is on a commercial system that's high voltage, and it runs 400 watts. It has a power station like one of these hooked to it, and it's only good for 600 watts. Well, your refrigerator, how much power do you need? You don't really know. Well, once I got this hooked up and I read it, I realized the refrigerator needs 125 watts when it's idling. When it's running, it needs between 350 and could surge up to 400 watts of power, maybe a little more when it drops the ice cubes or whatever's going on in there. So it cycles in and out throughout the day or night. So it's going to suck a pretty good amount of power night and day, especially when you're only up against with something like this. So my barn system, I have 2 systems out there, and what happened was I realized suddenly that one system could run during the day, providing, of course, we didn't have too much cloud cover. It could supply all the power that refrigerator would need to run all day long until almost about 8 o'clock at night. Before it got low, it would also start to pull power from the power station itself and run it down. So at that point, I would have to switch to my other system. My other system is a conventional, older style, whatever, but it's hard panels with a controller, set of batteries for like lithium batteries, and also it had an inverter, which was purchased again from Amazon. The inverter wasn't that great, but it was a budget thing at the time. Just buy a basic inverter to run for the show. It wasn't because I was going to have to try to survive. Yeah, so all of a sudden that 1,000 lousy watt of inverter is like, I'm going to need this. And part of the problem was I didn't know how much power the refrigerator needed. Well, like I said, I discovered it really quickly in the first 2 days of how much power the refrigerator was using, and it goes through quite a bit of power. It was like, oh, it's like, yeah, more than I thought. So running an extension cord from the barn where these things are located into the house to the refrigerator, suddenly it was like, boom, okay, now the refrigerator can be taken care of. And I've got daytime power, which will run all day long because of the 400 watt panel that's high voltage, 36 volt, that's being fed to it. It's a sort of a commercial style panel, and it's very, very good at putting out power. It was able to keep the refrigerator going all day long until the evening. Now in the evening I would switch over to the other system. And that had several lithium batteries that are 100 amp hour each, and that system would carry the fridge throughout the night, especially keep the door closed, try to keep the refrigerator in that lower state or cycle. So the next morning you'd be back on the other system, but the other system, the daytime system we'll call it, produced 400 watts all day long. So it would eventually fill the power station up and keep itself running. So it could keep running throughout the day, even if the power station got down, which it did. At one point we had a lot of cloud cover. The power station got down to about 32%. Yeah, that's kind of scary because it's like, I'm running out of power, but we were able to, between cycling the fridge and keeping this thing going, it eventually got throughout the day, would get a little bit more, closer to putting out that 400 watts, and it would start outpacing the fridge. So the power station would start coming up till it actually in the afternoons would start to hit 97, almost to 100% full. Beautiful, perfect. But this took 3 days to try to figure all this out. That was part of the problem. I did not have good planning, I have to admit. It didn't even occur to me that, run the refrigerator from the barn. And there was two reasons really. One of them is the extension cord is long. It's like, oh, that's not a good thing, but gonna have to do it. But the second thing was, how much power does that stupid fridge really use? And it's a fairly brand new Frigidaire unit, side by side, but I don't know how much power it uses, so I had to find out. Well, using one of these, I found out real quick. But running these down was a bad idea because it takes too long to recharge one of these, especially if the weather is not perfect, which essentially after the hurricane I really expected blue sky, sunny days, and I'd have lots of power or something. And that was like, no, you don't. You don't have lots of power. You've got heavy clouds, and 400 watt panels are suddenly putting out 50 watts because the cloud is, we've got cloud cover. And I was like, oh man, 50 watts, that'll take more than a day, to refill this thing. And I'm emptying this thing, quickly. So we had to change plans around, and we did. What I discovered was once I got the barn looking at the refrigerator, then the things that I'm looking at is the internet, which is 18 watts, as it turns out. How did I find that out, huh? The TV was a little hard. I think it was around 120 or so watts, roughly, pulling. And it's a good size, 65-inch, whatever. So it pulled some power. And also, I needed a box fan to keep us cool while we're sitting around because I haven't got air conditioning in the house. And the house was cooler inside than it was outside. Yeah, even in Texas, outside temperatures were running up to 90 degrees and very humid. So inside the house, we were in the low 80s. It was like not very comfortable, really not. But with a box fan or cooling fan blowing on you all day long steady, it was like, okay, it's livable. Once the sun goes down, the temperatures drop a little bit, and I would put the box fan, just like the good old days, I would put it up in a window and blow air in from outside to help cool us again so we could at least try to sleep. Because you're going to lose, with these hurricanes, you're going to lose a lot of sleep, and there's going to be a lot of pressure and panic on you, whatever, to try to deal with whatever's going on, problems. And I guess if you had damage, that would really compile the problems. Okay, let's cut to the chase here a little bit. But the thing was, the neighbors had gas generators, and they ran out of gas. And 20, 30, 40 miles around, there's no gas available. Power is out across most of the southern part of the state since the hurricane. So they can't run out and buy gas, you know. And in fact, some of them were trying to siphon gas from the car. And they were having problems because the cars are anti-theft proof, whatever, you know, having trouble getting gasoline out of a tank. And how much gas do you actually have in the car to how much you're using. Our car, for example, full, it holds 12 gallons. So most likely it's not going to have maybe 10 gallons. What does that equate to? 10 hours of generator time? So yeah, so the gas generator thing is, I'm not saying it's a terrible option, because actually it's a good option for a short time. Like say you're going to be without power for 6 hours, or you know, maybe a whole day or something. The generator could probably get you through and keep you really comfortable and offer really good power at a pretty good price, as opposed to these things. The difference is I don't need to run anywhere to get power. All I got to do is put this on a portable solar package, charge it back up, and I can go to town again. So I thought in many ways this would be the better option at that point, because I can keep endlessly making power. But there is some problems that occurred, and some of them are, one was one of the biggest ones I have. It's bigger than this one. It's a great big one. Power station, it failed. Yeah, it will not charge, it will not discharge, and it's a piece of junk right now. I'm going to have to try to see about getting it serviced, or I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But it's not working. And right after a hurricane, that's not a good thing to find out. And I had a second one, which was a small unit, like these guys kind of thing, and it failed and would not work. It was charged, but it wouldn't run. It would just keep shutting itself off and kicking off, overheating possibly, whatever, but it just refused. So we had some failure. That still left me with these three of these. Basically, I have three large stations that are all about this size, and trying to rotate them and stuff, and they're 50 pounds each, and I'm not a young man anymore, so hauling those in and out, that wasn't a good thing either. But it meant over the next 3 days without power, I was able to continue to keep the household running, where guys with gas generators were having a lot of issues, and they were finding out. And in some cases, I'm thinking of one specific one I'm thinking of, he discovered he couldn't get his generator running. So by the time he was able to even get into looking at or trying to fix it, he had a freezer full of food that he lost, and a refrigerator full of stuff that it's all junk, it's all gone. So that's pretty good coin loss right there. And he also, of course, had no TV, no internet. He couldn't recharge anything in the house. He had no water because he's on a well pump, so he was out of luck there. We had city water here, and it was the pressure dropped a little bit, but it maintained itself. So we were able to have water the whole time, which was that was a cool thing. If I did have a well pump, then I would have had to have, obviously more solar to cover that too, Yeah. So again, back to planning, The biggest thing I'm going to say right now is the old style, what I call the old style classic conventional system with the controller, the inverter, big battery lithium package like this. That's the answer right there. That is what worked, well, and just running an extension cord from it into the house in this case to run stuff was like, that was the godsend. That was the answer. Demand, depending on these, was like short time, fine, but for like 3 days, not good at all. And I actually want to look at this system, and I will be doubling the capacity of this system shortly, because it got us through so much better, and it took all the pressure off of me to worrying about whether the power station's at, is it at 40% now, is it at 20%? You end up finding most of your day you're running between power stations trying to see, okay, how much more power do I have left in this one before I have to run it outside, put it on the portables, try to charge it up, bring it back in the house. It was a full-time job basically. Yeah, And the other thing was, something like this is, you might think this is ridiculously oversized for running a television, because obviously this has got a lot of power, it's got a lot of storage. But surprisingly, when you have 3 days of this event, one of these will last you maybe for a good part of the day, but with the internet box fan, just a small box fan that runs about, I forget what that thing pulls, I think it pulls about 70 watt, whatever, plus the TV, and maybe charge computers and whatever else have you. One of these runs down, and in 6 to 8 hours, you're out of juice. This thing's empty, and it's like, it takes a certain amount of time to refill this, and they don't refill quickly. In fact, this one had to sit on a 400 watt portable system all day long, and it's up to 50% right now. It's still not full because of the clouds and the weather. You know, the weather did not cooperate. Like I said, Mother Nature, she doesn't travel in a straight line. She does her thing, you know. So Mother Nature, after the hurricane, was mean and threw thunder, lightning, and wind and storms at us right afterwards. It was like, great, you know, like, we're not getting a break here. In fact, we even had the power go out because of a lightning storm after the hurricane, you know, after we got the power back on. And that's all been in the last not even 24 hours yet, you know, since we got power back on. So there was a lot learned here that I wanted to share with you guys. And, you know, we'll take a look at the... why don't we run up to the barn system for a minute, and I'll just show you this barn system I have. It doesn't even cost what some of these things cost, and yet at the same time, it far exceeded my expectations, and it was able to carry everything far better than 10 of these things. And these aren't cheap. You know, I'm not going to quote prices exactly, but some of these things are into the thousands of dollars. Yeah, let's take a look at the barn, and I'll show you the two systems that we're able to maintain and carry the house. Not great, but I got a light on. This is we're out in the barn. This is the two systems. This one here right now, I've got a pair of 100 amps. I've got another one like you just saw that's going to be on here, but I'm going to have 4 of these shortly. But right now I've got 200 amp hours, which is not that much, but between 200 amp hours and the panel and stuff, this thing charged up fully and it was ready to go, and it could keep the refrigerator running overnight into the next morning. At that time, it would disconnect from the inverter here and connect to this one here. This is not a, I'm not going to call it a great power station, but it's doing the trick because I've got 400 watts coming in from a commercial panel, high voltage, 36 volt, and in fact it's at 100% right now. I have almost no load on it, but I plugged the extension cord in from here back to the house. Now that extension cord was a big no-no. It's a 100-foot cord, but if you want to run a refrigerator, you don't care. It was a heavy commercial type contractor's cord, but they still don't, you know, the power alone and the distance is stupid. So I was up over 400 watts where I should have been like 370 or whatever because of the voltage drop, obviously. So it wasn't perfect, but it was plugged in here, and this system here, because of the 400 watts coming in, it would run that refrigerator all day long. This would drop off when we had cloud cover, whatever, and as the sun came back out, this would catch back up. So this always stayed relatively in that, you know, keep the refrigerator going throughout the day. So this system here worked absolutely flawless. It was like, this is great. This is good enough, you know, for what I need. And at nighttime, I would come over here around 8 o'clock at night and plug into the inverter here with the refrigerator and leave it on these two batteries for the night. And that would keep the fridge overnight, keep it cold, keep it chilled, keep it going. I've got the little Viber here. I used it for running the internet because it's a small system. This is only good for 300 watt, but it'll run, you know, an 18 watt system, like a, you know, in this case a modem for an internet. This will keep that going pretty much all day long, but at some point again you're going to have to pull that. So what was better in the long run was just going ahead with one of these big power stations like this one here. I've got a all powers here that's 1500 watt. It would run the TV, the box fan, and the internet and everything all on its own, and it would keep it going for about 6 to 8 hours, at which time I'd have to pull it, swap it with a fresh one that was fully charged, put this one on the solar, and hopefully charge it back up. The biggest bottleneck of any of these power stations like this is a lot of them only allow maybe 200 watts in or something, and some of them might, if you're lucky, you might have a good one that allows 400, and also have some of them that will allow, there are ones out there that will allow 2000 watts come in. That would be optimally a better station. If you're going to put your money into a, you know, power station, Find out what the limitation is and how many watts can come in, because that is going to make or break your whole day right there. You know, and like I said, I have well over 1,000, I have a couple thousand watts in portables, but if you can only bring in the maximum of 400 watts, you can't, you know, you're just losing the race kind of thing right there. And so that was bad. This situation here was perfect for the refrigerator. Now, this system here is a little different. This is the old conventional system. It has the controller, it has the inverter, the batteries, and you can keep banking these things up. And with a system like this, you can keep adding these. Eventually, I do want to go to a higher voltage on this system as well, but I'll have to go up top and change the wiring around a little bit. And I'd actually like to get some more hard panels because, again, that's something that I learned. The hard panels just overall were more efficient and put out more power all day long over the portables. The portables, I'm going to be honest, the portables, the best portable I have that showed the best ratio of output was not any of the brand names that that you or I know. It was actually a 200 watt Vevor set of portables. I put the 200 watt Vevor on the driveway, and it produced almost 150 watts throughout the day. And the other ones were failing. They were producing 50 watts and, you know, lower even. And they were horrible. Yeah. Yeah. And here, Vevor, who's not really a solar power company, but their panel was just far. In fact, I'm thinking about ordering another set from Vevor to maybe jump it up to a, you know, and put a Y cable parallel and jump it to a 400 watt system that will charge my stuff, because getting the power in is a huge part of the dynamics of having solar power on the house to be able to run things. The only other biggest problem, and I have not been able to, you know, overcome it, is to be able to run the AC in the house. That would be optimal. Now, we do have portables, AC systems that we could have run, but the problem was there was no more power stations, there was no more solar power available to pick up the slack or pick that up extra. So I just couldn't do it. And it was like, we're gonna have to be uncomfortable and run a box fan for the time being. And hopefully the power won't stay off for very long, like weeks or something, you know. Yeah, you know, 3 days was, I was pretty surprised that 3 days is pretty rough. But well, like I said, we came through, we did great. You know, if you think about it, like for 3 days, we were without power and we had almost every convenience you could ask for, except the darn house AC. And that was like, yeah, you know, I've got to come up with a plan for the future to figure out how to do that, or, you know, be able to hook up a portable or an emergency system, or have enough power in solar that I can pick that house AC up and run it. Yeah. Okay, we're back. It's raining and thunder and lightning, whatever. Wow. The thing with the hard numbers here is, here's the problem. Obviously the sun starts up in the morning, you get 30 watts in, then you get 50, and slowly you get 100. It's going to take more than a day to recharge one of these things. In fact, the best I could do on the very best day was to get about 50% charged while another one was running down. And that's just during the daytime. That's not in the evenings when you want to maybe sit down and watch some television or something. So this was really not a good answer. Yeah, the other system that I showed you with the barn, if it had the storage, it probably could carry you through the evening and run the fridge and keep the TV and whatever going, because the storage is just, it just seems like it's just so much better than what goes on with these power stations. And the other problem I did run into with the 400 watts, and I didn't really want to get into it, but the 400 watt panels were not, these portables were producing about 200 watts of power in the best possible angle, middle of the day with the sun shining in Texas. Yeah, that's not good enough. 200 watts will take more than 12 hours to bring this bad boy back up. So 200 watts was like, I need more. So what I did was I paralleled some panels and boosted it to 600 watts total coming in, and it was still only for maybe an hour or two in the middle of the day we were able to peak out at around 300 watts. Otherwise it dropped off to 180 watts, 150 watts. Again, taking way too long to recharge these things, and that's why I called it the bottleneck. So the hard fast numbers were This system works great. These are okay for a short period, but sort of like the gas generator thing, it was like, you know, for long term, you need something better than this, you know. Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching Coffee Tools. Please like, share, subscribe. Next week we've got tools, we've got reviews, we've got this is a new battery. We're going to be taking a look at it, I guess Monday. Yeah, until then, be safe and be kind to everybody, and we'll see you guys later. Over and out.